Welcome to the Shannon Wheeler Podcast. After spending 30 years in the housing industry, I have come to understand that there are two things that I love to talk about. One of those is real estate, and the other one is people. And so this is a show that is going to focus on those two things. Real estate and all the things that go on in the real estate markets, because it's of a lot of interest to me, and people, because I've learned, if nothing else, over 30 years' time, that every business is truly a people business. Thank you for spending some time with us.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Shannon Wheeler Podcast. We are so glad to be here with you again this week. Let's talk first about markets and interest rates this week. There seems to be a framework for a deal in Iran put together, but I think there's some confusion as to what the details of that deal actually are. So until they get that sorted out, we won't really be able to say we've gotten past the situation in Iran currently. But as far as interest rates go, I would tell you that they're in a stall pattern right now. We're stuck in the mid sixes and we're kind of hanging there. It's partly due to the Iran situation, but it's due mostly to the underpinning of our economic situation right now when it comes to the national debt and all those types of things. So the interest rates themselves, even if we get a deal done in Iran, I don't expect them to just fall off a cliff. I do think that they're going to get worse less fast. And so maybe we see a little bit of pullback and we get a little bit closer down to that 6 mark. I would say for the most part that as we start to go through the rest of the year, the big change from getting a deal done and not getting a deal done is that if we don't get a deal done, then we're probably going to look at 2 quarter-point interest rate hikes before the end of the year. If we do get a deal done, I think those interest rate hikes either come into question, come off the table. I don't think they move to do we cut. I think they do come off the table. And so at that point, it's a matter of watching the economic data, watching the inflation data. But those economic underpinnings with inflation, cost of goods and services, that's driving interest rates more than the situation in Iran. So when we get that situation in Iran, don't think it just means rates are going to plummet. However, if you've been in the market for refinancing anytime in the last 90 days to 180 days, then you may likely have a window of opportunity where there's savings available for you to scoop up for your family. So the reason this is important is because you need to know that these markets are not going to go evenly. They're not going to go straight up. They're not going to go straight down. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs. You need to be prepared not to try to time the market, but you need to be prepared to act decisively in the market that you're given. What does that mean? Well, that means that you need to contact the show, contact me, get signed up for my Rate Watch program. This is very important. What is Rate Watch? What does that mean? What that means is you're going to contact me, send me your most recent monthly mortgage statement. And we're going to have a conversation. And when we have that conversation, we're going to talk about things like how much does your monthly budget need to benefit from doing something new with your mortgage to make it worth doing. We're going to talk about if I do something with my current mortgage to get either monthly savings, pay off other debt, etc., what is the full ramification of that for my family? We're going to sit down and we're going to go through that math. All of those things are going to be accomplished by getting on this Rate Watch program. You get the initial consultation, doesn't cost a thing, to find out where am I at right now? What are rates doing to my values? What are my options? What if I get a job change? We're going to talk about that with our guest today. They got visited with an unexpected job change in the middle of 2020, and they had to make some adjustments. You need to know where you're at in the marketplace with your real estate assets when these things start to happen. So you're going to get that initial consultation. Then you're going to send in your most recent mortgage statement. And if you're not already a client, I probably have that information already, but if not, you're going to send it in. And then we're going to have the conversation and put you on a rate watch where we're going to establish a strike price unique to you. So when you're in a situation where you're saying, hey, Shannon, I bought this house in 2023 with a conventional loan. I paid this amount. I've got this rate. Here's my current monthly mortgage statement. We have the conversation and we determine, hey, when the interest rates soften by 0.3 of a point and we get here, or when we get to 5.875 and your credit score, your loan to value, your particular situation that presents benefits and savings for you and your loan product, boom, we act immediately. That's called the strike price. That's key because in the last year, I have seen several situations where I've either gotten new transactions that hit my desk because somebody didn't move fast enough on their desk, or I lost a transaction because the customer and I had not coordinated our efforts to be prepared for that little dip in the market. So it's a matter of readiness. It's a matter of being prepared. It's a matter of partnering with your lender to say, hey, I don't need to watch the market every day. I've got somebody doing that for me. And I also know that exactly when that market gives me the advantage I'm looking for, we take advantage of it immediately. So that's very important. The Rate Watch program is super important. We've started rolling this out now. You can either message me, you can contact the show and get signed up for it, however you'd like. But very important Rate Watch program as we go forward. Okay, so let's get to our guest on the show today. And I am joined by a very special person. She has a very special story. Actually, I have two guests today.
Yeah.
Curveball, yes. Only one of them is going to actually voice themselves, but I do have two full guests today because Gentry has to be a full guest. Like Gentry is like a guest, right? Okay, so we have Gentry and I have Angie. Angie, I'm so glad to have you on the show today. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to have be invited, and I'm excited about it. And I want to visit with you and your audience.
We are so glad to have you. Okay, so let's dig right in.
Okay.
It is obvious that the first question I need to ask is, who is Gentry?
Gentry is my mascot. He is. I'll call myself the GOAT Realtor. And there's a reason behind that. So Gentry's my little mascot, and we work together to help my clients reach we determine their goals, watch for how to get the best outcomes for their situation and what they're looking to do in the real estate market. That's the O. And then A is advocacy. I advocate for my clients, and Gentry helps me with that as well. And then we build trust in our relationships with our clients. So that's I use Gentry as a little mascot to remind people of what I do. And it also stands for God over all things. So that's how I built my business. I feel like if I put God first, then everything else falls into place. And and of course, I want my clients to feel like they're getting the greatest of all time service.
Yes. Oh, fantastic. It's great. I love that because for people that, watch sports, or, you see GOAT and the first thing you think is greatest of all time. Right. But what I love about it is when I asked Angie, I was like, hey, it's pretty cool. Cause I think greatest of all time, really, like the GOAT. And we were talking about that, but then you shared with me that it really is not saying you're the greatest. It's a reminder to pour into the needs and in the lives of your clients that you're serving.
Exactly.
I was not expecting that, but it's really great.
Yeah.
And advocacy is huge.
It is.
We'll talk about that a little bit about what it really means to advocate for a client. We all have things that we do in our practices and our businesses, but to truly advocate for a client, it's like having empathy. To really truly have empathy is to have the desire to remove the hurt for the person.
Yes.
And to advocate is that same way. You jump in the boat with the people.
Yes.
Right.
I jump in the boat with the people.
Yeah. That's
Boots
it.
on the ground with the people. I walk the land with people. And, and part of the advocacy also comes from my background as a counselor. I'm a trained counselor with a master's in counseling.
Okay.
And that helps me with my clients as well, because I help to take the emotion out of some of the stress that goes along with purchasing or selling a home. I can help advocate that way as well, because I can help ask the right questions to determine what their goals really are. And
super important.
Yeah, it's important.
So speaking of boots, Where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Texas.
Okay.
And not Tennessee, but hey, that's the next best thing, right?
Hey, listen,
So-
I got a working theory about people from Texas. We'll get to that in a few
Okay.
minutes. It's good. It's a good thing. But anyway, so you're
Yeah.
originally from Texas.
I am.
And how did you get here, if you don't mind if I ask?
Oh, a roundabout way. My husband
Okay.
is in higher education and has been in higher ed for like 30 some odd years. And so we've moved around different times for promotions and his career. And
Now, is he from Texas
he's
also?
also from Texas. Uh-huh.
Okay, I'm going
Yeah.
to go ahead and share my
Mhm.
working theory with you.
Okay.
This is my working theory about
Okay.
people from Tennessee and Texas.
Uh-huh.
Of course, you know, there's the Alamo, right? Like, so
Yes.
there's history already, right? But I noticed that a lot of people from Tennessee
Mhm.
that I knew had a real affinity for Texas.
Mhm.
You know, for a long time, Nashville and Texas cities of the same size have been compared. And, you know, there's a lot of kind of comparison that happens
Mhm.
there. And I noticed a lot of people from Texas move here
Mhm.
and get along real well. So I started asking myself, why is this? I mean, you do mortgages and real estate stuff for 30 years. You start to ask yourself these
Mhm.
questions. So I'm asking myself, I'm like, why is that? Why do
Oh.
they tend to get along so well?
I think it's Southern hospitality for
Okay.
one,
Okay.
and people are friendly here and
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And another thing, country music. I mean,
You know,
ties them together.
you know,
George Strait is the king, but yeah, Nashville has its place as well.
you know, I really didn't think about
Yeah.
that as much, which that's funny that
Mhm.
somebody from Texas would say Nashville's got their place as well.
Yeah.
People from Nashville be like, we're the country.
Hey, we got
Yeah.
George Strait though.
Isn't that wonderful?
So,
I
Texas
love
has
that.
George
Okay,
Strait.
so here's my other theory.
Uh-huh.
My other working theory on this is that Tennessee and Texas are both southern states,
Mhm.
but they're not deep southern states.
Right.
They're sort of their own thing.
Mhm.
So, like, Tennessee has always been a southern state, but not Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia. They're not a deep
Mhm.
southern state. You know,
Yeah.
Texas has always been a southern state, but you know, with its closeness and proximity to Mexico and the
Mhm.
Southwest influence
Right.
and the size, it's kind of its own thing.
Yeah,
So I
it
think
is.
that's where a
Mhm.
part of it comes in too. Is it's kind of like, hey, we're all the same. We're
Mhm.
like cousins or something. Like
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
we're kind of our own thing. And so I think that permeates through the people. And then when they see each other, they can recognize that.
Right. I do too. I think it is. Yeah. They're
So
just
you-
having a natural affinity to each other. I
Yeah.
think so.
So you leave Texas,
Mhm.
head to Washington. Is that where you go
Yes,
next?
this time,
Okay.
yes, we went to Washington and then went to West Virginia. And during COVID, that's when my husband lost his job, and that was unexpected. But you know, it was a result of COVID and some things at the college he was at. And then we ended up here during COVID. I took my real estate exam. So did my husband. We're both licensed, but he has.
I didn't know that.
He has his
Okay.
W-2 job now. He's going to help me when I can recruit him.
Is
into the
Gentry
business.
going to help him too?
Oh yes. Oh yeah. Gentry. He needs all the help from Gentry he can get. No, he's a good guy. But,
so he won't be the goat realtor just yet. It'll
Not just yet.
just
He'll
yet.
have to earn his spot.
He's got to be the best one in the family first. I mean, he's like number 3 right now. You know.
Yeah. And so we both got our licenses, and then came here. And I knew 4 people in the whole state when I started my business. And that was my brother-in-law and sister-in-law who transferred here from Mississippi to Nissan. And then my son and daughter-in-law had moved. My son's job had transferred him from Washington State to Nashville. And so I knew 4 people in Tennessee when I started my business. And since then, I've helped probably 125 families in Middle Tennessee find homes or sell homes.
So able to build a successful business without
Yes.
being from here,
Yes.
without having a built-in network.
Without a sphere, yeah.
So
That's been hard. But
yeah, you earn every customer, don't you?
You earn every.
You earn
yes,
every
you do.
customer because
You really do.
nobody is going to say, "Oh, hey, you know, I went to middle school with Angie.
Mhm.
She's a good gal. Call her
Right.
up. She'll,
Yes.
you know, you don't get any of that."
Nope, I don't get any of that.
So,
But-
what made you think about getting a mascot? What made you think like your sale, like, you know, your customers are out there, your
Mhm.
clients, my clients, they're going to watch the show, but we have a lot of professionals, fellow professionals, and marketers that watch as well. So, what was the process that you went through? And you're like, okay, I know no one. I don't know what I'm going to do. I've got to get started somehow. Where
Well,
did you start?
Everybody told me you need to be unique and do what comes naturally to you. And my kids grew up raising Nigerian dwarf dairy goats. That's another reason for the goat.
Okay.
We loved it. They showed them, they earned enough money to buy their first cars with cash. They hauled hay and mucked stalls and did all the things, gave vaccinations, delivered baby goats when they were born. So it just became a part of our lives, and it was a good way to teach my kids work ethic because they had to take care of something besides themselves. And, so that hard work ethic that I taught my kids, that's how I built my business as well. Just work hard, call people back, see what they need.
So the goat became a perfect mascot. Like Dad embodies my real estate practice. Okay. And tell people again, because I think greatest of all time, but the GOAT is got a couple of definitions for you. So let's talk about those and why that's so important to you.
Okay. The God over all things, GOAT, because my spiritual life is very important to me. I've seen God's hand at work in my life through the years.
When did you start a faith journey? Has that been something that you've always?
Probably when I was around 19 years old, probably.
Okay.
And so that's kind of followed me. I've seen, like I said, I've seen God's hand work in my life in lots of ways. I also homeschooled my kids. That takes a lot of patience. And so that, God was present in that for sure, because of 22 years of homeschooling, that would, that'll take it out of a person, but it was a good experience.
Well, and I mean, your husband's in higher education, right? So, so he's watching you in real estate and he's thinking, I can sell houses. And you're thinking, okay, come on. And you're like, I'm going to homeschool. And he's like, okay, I got you.
And actually that, at first he's the one that he's like, oh, you ever thought about homeschooling the kids? I'm like, heck no, those people are weird. And God has a way of humbling you and putting you in positions that you just don't expect. And, now I can look back and think to myself and see the journey. And that was the best thing that we could have done for our kids and our family. And it worked out really well because we moved so many times for his job. So they didn't have to pick up and move from a different school every time. And that also helps me too in real estate because we have bought and sold homes and land multiple times. And so I know what people are going through, and I know the emotions that go along with that and the feelings that they have and the stressors they have. And that helps me to relate to my clients better, I think.
I think that matters so much. I mean, it just does. Because until you've gone to a closing and then gone back to your house to finish packing, until you've gone through all those things, there's certain parts of the story that you just can't fill in because you just don't know, right?
You don't know.
You just
don't
know.
know what you don't know, and so having somebody that's been there and done that can
personally,
be it can be a big help for somebody.
Yeah. So you get here, and now I think the other thing that's interesting too is that life experience. Angie, that matters so much because, I taught a class about 3 weeks ago, and I said, listen, I don't, toot my own horn very often, but I can guarantee you that I have forgotten more about mortgages than you ever will learn and ever could learn. Like literally, that's true. But it's also points out something very factual, which is that gives me no advantage whatsoever. Because you can pull your phone out of your pocket, put it on the table, and you can pull up more information about mortgages than I'll ever be able to learn.
Right.
Or have ever learned. So that's not the point. That's not why you're going to need to use me. It's because I'm going to make sure that you get the best deal, you get best pricing. We're going to close on time. I know the anxiety of having to deal with getting a mortgage together while you're also taking kids to school and like all those things. In that life experience, that's where that really comes into play.
It does, because you think about it. People don't even consider that when you move to a different state or you move to a different city, things like finding a new primary care physician, and then when you get your paperwork, you have to fill out your emergency contact. Well, you don't even have an emergency contact in these new places. It's things like that I know and I've experienced, and I can kind of guide people a little bit. And I think it's been helpful.
Now, so you talk about the emergency contact, like I said, your area that you work in, what area do you work in primarily? I mean, you're licensed in the state of Tennessee. So, you can work anywhere in the state, but where do you spend most of your...
I spend most of my time within an hour and a half to 2 hour radius of Murfreesboro.
Okay. So in that radius, one of the things, we talk about, this show's about two things, people and real estate, right? And in the real estate space, there's a couple of things that affect things from time to time. There's the big things everybody hears about, prices and rates, all those things. But then there's other things, like, for example, rural healthcare. This is a thing, right? Where if you live within that 1.5 to 2 hour ring around Murfreesboro, probably rural healthcare has hit your radar at some point.
It has, yeah.
So walk me through that real quick, because I know everybody says, I just want 15 acres and some goats and a place out. But there's a couple of things that your family makeup may determine push you a little towards I-40 or a little so talk about that real quick.
Well, that's a good example of how to help people, because I have to look at, okay, is this an older couple, a younger couple? Are they going to have kids that are going to need, they'll have an accident sometime and need emergency medical care pretty quickly. They might not want to be as far as they think they do. Same with an older person. If they have to, go to doctor's appointments, they might want to be closer to a city.
They're thinking of the peace and the quiet, not a chest, not my chest is hurting.
But inevitably, some of those things happen, and so you got to be a little prepared for that. And, so I'll ask people about, what do you think healthcare needs? And if say it's an older couple, have you thought about that you might need a one-level home, a single-level home, rather than stairs? Because the older you get, you have to climb stairs, and are you going to be in a good enough health to do that? Because they can live on their own longer if their house suits their needs. Maybe grab bars, or maybe a walk-in or roll-in shower if it's an older couple.
Okay, so I'm gonna jump to something real quick. You just got into a real hot topic for me. Aging in place and intergenerational living, multi-generational living, however you want to describe it. I feel like the demographics are pushing us inexorably to this point where you, me, our clients are all going to grapple with this question. Because I feel like I'm not an expert in construction, but I think that if they started building boxes for people right now that are going to age at a point where they're going to have to decide, do I age in place or do I age in a facility? Like, if they started making the boxes now, there's not enough boxes. They're not going to be able to make enough boxes. And that means that also the boxes they are able to make are going to be super expensive. So this is going to make marketplaces respond with professionals like you and I, who are going to look at the inventory we have available, the buildable land we have available, and the resources we have available. And we've got to figure out how to house all of these people. And so when you talk about grab bars, you talk about these things, talk a little bit about what your clients work through when it comes to aging in place, modifying a home potentially for aging in place, intergenerational living. Talk a little bit about some of the things that you see in your market on those areas.
Well, just recently I've helped a family. Their mom owned her own home and land out in a rural community here near Murfreesboro. And she had to move to a facility. And the family really wanted to keep the property in the family, but they had to sell because her care was so expensive and they only had so many months of care money left. And so we had to, look at what their needs were, try to net them the most for that property that they could get. And then you have other people that, want to age in place, or they have their house paid for. They don't want to, move somewhere else and get a higher rate like we have right now, what they consider a higher rate. There's so many different people with different needs. Some people, it's better to not sell and just modify their home. And that's one of the things we talk about sometimes.
Because you may not be able to find inventory that's
affordable
out there that they
income.
Okay, so let's talk about a typical call like this. You're going to get, hey, Angie, I'm thinking about moving because I'm tired of moving up and down stairs. What are some of the 2 or 3 most typical calls you're getting? Hey, we're looking to move to the area. Or are there any ones that you get more often than others?
Not really. I mean, I have a variety of clients.
Okay.
Majority of people are. I have a lot of out-of-state clients actually too, and
So people
yeah,
relocating here.
relocating.
Now,
And,
I and my team,
Uh-huh.
we take the approach of we're super glad that these people move into our
Mhm.
area. I would not be having this conversation with you if people didn't move into our area. I think
Mhm.
it's a badge of honor that we are so sought after. I think that that's something we should be proud of, and we should welcome in the contributions from all the people that move here.
Right.
It's, I get in trouble sometimes because people want to complain about people moving in the area.
Well, change is hard for people.
But here's the thing, and this is what I tell people. If I had to live my life without the people in my life that were not born here, that is not a life I'm interested in.
That's a great way to put it. It is. Yeah. Because I think different people can really enhance the life we live. Like, you know, they have different things to offer. Just like our body. I mean, my hand can offer one thing, my foot offers a different thing. I mean, you know, it's all parts of the same.
That's it. Yeah, and I think to ourselves, to myself, I think, so let me get this straight. We have people who are financially sound. They're looking for a good place to raise their family and find all these benefits in life and so on and so forth. Like, that's what they're coming here for. And like, literally all we have to do is figure out the traffic. And come on, people. You know, it's like, I mean, yes, traffic is a big deal. Yes, it's terribly annoying for people. And yes, it's weird to take an hour to get across town in Murfreesboro. Like, I get all that. I truly get all that. But as a kid that was born and raised in South Nashville, when at the time the population was about 300,000, and I look at Murfreesboro and I look at how Murfreesboro is closely becoming, you know, people will say, well, I don't want to live in Nashville. Well, listen, let me tell you something. You're not going to stop it.
Yeah, it's not going to stop. And that's kind of
so
what
it's working with it.
You have to work with it. You have to adapt. And that's the only way you're going to survive, I think, because growth is not going to stop at this point.
No.
Tennessee has so much to offer that other states don't. And having lived in other places, I can vouch for that. I mean, it's
and here's the other thing. The other thing is when people are contacting you and they're wanting to come here, first of all, you made the move. That matters a lot. So when people are out looking and they're coming from other states, I think that the people like yourself that have made the move, they have somewhat of an advantage in being able to share that story.
Yeah.
And people can really relate to it.
I think that's what you have to do, Shannon, is use the experiences that you have and you gained throughout your life, and use those to help serve others. And I mean, there's got to be, that's the way I put the method to the madness, I guess, is that you use those experiences. You can't see in the moment sometimes what's good about them. If it's a negative experience you've had through life or hard, like my husband losing his job, but then the better thing is we adapted through it. We found a way to make things work in another place. And, and you just have to do that. That's all. That's what life's all about, is making adjustments. It's never going to change.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I realized where I was missing on that is when I realized that I'm not smart enough to know what's good for me. So there may be something I'm experiencing and I'm thinking to myself, this is terrible. Like, this is the worst. But God's plan is
way better and way more extensive than what you can.
And so I'm sitting here like, wait a minute, 5 years later, I'm like, I ended up in this perfect place because of this. But then I dial back and I'm like, well, I thought that was terrible at the time.
Yes.
So I've realized I'm not smart enough to know what is good for me and not. God does.
Yes.
So the only choice I have is to just keep doing what I know to do to be in right relation. And that's all that literally is all I can do. I fail to do that a lot of times, but
I think we all do.
Yeah. But when I realized I'm not smart enough to figure out which one's good and not, it only happens with retrospect. It took a lot of the pressure off. It's like,
it does.
Yeah.
And you just go through life every day and think, okay, I just say, God, what do you have for me today? Who do I need to help today?
Why did you put me here today?
Yeah. There's just let me worry about today and not all week long. Just if I can focus on today, because I'm a worrier and I worry about my clients. I stay up many a night thinking about my clients.
Oh yeah.
And what I can do to help them. But I
Yeah.
just got to take it one day at a time.
Yeah. It's hard to figure out when you're worrying and when you're working.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
I was in a small group 10 years ago, and the small group leader, he passed now of cancer, but he said something really neat to me that I've never forgotten. He said, it says that he neither sleeps nor slumbers, so there's no sense in both of us staying up. So every night when I have any anxious thoughts or I start the list for the next day, I'm just like, no sense in both of us staying up. And best thing I can do is be fresh in the morning. It helps me, because worry and faith can't be in the same space.
Mm-hmm.
So I know how when you find yourself worrying and you're telling yourself, I'm worried about this, or I'm worried, it also is like, okay, wait a minute, I've got to get that out because I got to get and they can't be in the same. Yeah. So a couple of things, in our market, as a real estate professional, you're Angie, you're the GOAT realtor, you're a mom, a wife, a mother, like all these things. But as a professional, that's stuff we take seriously.
Yes, it is.
The bar to entry to become a realtor is not super, super high. It's not as high as it is to be an attorney or anything else, but that doesn't lessen how seriously we take our code of ethics and our fiduciary responsibility to our clients.
Right.
So for those of you that don't know or not familiar with that term fiduciary, you need to understand that real estate professionals have a self-enforced code of ethics that they use to police themselves. But then there's also actual state law that dictates the relationships between agents and the buying public. That's done for a very particular reason, and that's because you, as the buying public, don't do real estate and mortgages and have all the information that we do every single day.
Right.
So it's incumbent upon us as professionals and the caretakers of our market to make sure that you're given fair and accurate information to make decisions. So they actually charge realtors with a fiduciary responsibility, which means when Angie takes you on as a client, she's bound by law to represent you, and only your interests.
Yes.
This is a fiduciary responsibility. Now, in the state of Tennessee, there's a couple of ways that can happen. There's actually seller representation, buyer representation. There's actually a thing called dual agency. That's a place where Angie has the ability to represent a buyer and a seller at the same time. We don't do that on our team because I don't feel like you can actually do that accurately. I feel like if you try to represent both parties, somebody's getting underrepresented, in my opinion. And then there's other ways to deal with that situation if you have it. But the reason I tell you all this is because that fiduciary responsibility is important. So when you're talking with Angie and you say, hey, Angie, I want to sell my house, or hey, we want to move to Tennessee, you have to understand that she's going to focus on representing your best interest in that situation. If you are a buyer, she's going to tell you what you need to know as a buyer to have the very best experience in the market that we've got as a buyer. If you are a seller, she is bound by law to give you the instruction that she knows and the information that she has to help you get the best experience as a seller in the marketplace. Sellers and buyers negotiate.
They do.
They're not always on the same page.
Right.
Sometimes we have a market that advantages one or the other. So Angie is in this spot. And so I would ask you, you're going to have buyers, you're going to have sellers come up to you, and they have different needs. So when you have a buyer right now, today in this market, what are you telling your buyers?
I'm telling my buyers right now, don't focus too much on the headlines, because the headlines are kind of out there all the time right now with the rates and talking about how bad the market is and things like that. People are always going to need homes. They always need a place to live. So, you have to look at what you're wanting to do short term and long term. And you may or may not wait for the rate. You might find a house that you really love and want to purchase it now and talk about refinance later. You have to look at everybody's individual circumstance. You can't just say there's not just a market answer for everyone. It's all individual, and every transaction is going to be different. Every person looking, their needs are going to be different. And so I tell them, don't panic about the headlines. Just we need to focus on what's good for you and your family right now.
I think that's great. We don't have an 800-pound gorilla in the market right now. When the rates are 2%, that's the 800-pound gorilla, right? And when rates are 10%. But right now we're in a spot where you need a buyer's agent, a buyer representative that takes the fiduciary responsibility seriously and can find you if there is deals. There are concessions more so than before.
Are very prevalent right now.
Okay. So, which leads me to the other side of that coin, right? So you've got your buyers and you're telling your buyers, hey, let's find a deal. There's some soft spots out there. If you have some patience, there's maybe some properties that have been sitting a little bit. Nobody's giving anything away, right? I mean, that's not what you're telling them. But then when it comes to the sellers, it changes a little bit. Hey, Angie, I live at 123 Lucky Lane. And I want to sell my house. What am I dealing with?
Well, I think the sellers need to be realistic nowadays. And because we realtors work in the market every day, it's important that those sellers listen to us. I mean, we have a lot of people still that think it's a few years back where we can get thousands and thousands over asking price. And they want to still price their homes a little high. So I'm telling my sellers, you want to price it correctly, because the longer it's on the market, if you overprice and it sits on the market a long time, then you're going to give concessions probably later because somebody's going to think something may be wrong with it, or they've been on the market for a while, so they're going to be willing to negotiate a lot lower, so they could potentially lose money if they price too high. So I work with them to make sure that we price it correctly so that their house sells quickly but still nets them the most possible for their so they don't leave money on the table.
So what you're really talking about is what we call chasing the market. So talk about that one more time, the dangers of chasing the market.
Well, the dangers of chasing the market, I would say, are that you risk, if you overprice your home. Initially overprice it. It may sit longer. And we have a lot of houses that have been sitting for a while because of the rate situation. You could lose more money that way, because if you price it correctly from the outset, you're going to have greater competition.
Do you think best offers come within 48 hours?
I don't know if I'd say 48 hours.
Or is there a period of time at the beginning of a listing where you say, you know what?
The first week to 2 weeks, probably, I would think.
Because everybody's watching the market, right? And there's not so much inventory out there that you're
houses that are priced right are still selling, and they're still selling pretty quickly, I think.
I've seen a couple of multiple offer situations for the right houses. But you tell people in the market that we're in right now, your first 7 to 10 days, you want to be priced correctly.
I do think so.
And so when people start seeing price changes or price improvements, we say price improvement, and it is an improved price. But what is the buying public here? What is my client here out there when they see a price improvement?
I think they feel like, it was either overpriced from the get-go, or they've made one price improvement, so they're going to make more, and I can get a better deal. And
that's where the chasing the market begins. If you're not,
everybody's looking for the best deal.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about some of the other things that are out there in real estate right now. So Angie, you help people if they're wanting to buy a house, and you represent buyers, sellers, like if somebody wants to go find a place or sell a place. But the other things that you run into are people who are looking for, again, like intergenerational living solutions on acreage, and investment opportunities. So what is an intergenerational living scenario that you've seen recently, or a question, somebody that's trying to do that? What's that look like?
I think I'm seeing more of that. 2 of the houses that just were built next door to me both had 2 primary suites, so that a parent or someone could live with them later if needed. And I'm seeing a lot of families wanting a family compound, so to speak. And so that the multi-generations can live together. or close together so that they can help one another. And another issue with that, I believe, is that more and more people, young people, are not able to afford their own home anymore, but due to college loans or whatever they've got.
Price of housing, all
all the things, and their wage. More and more people are living with their parents longer.
Yeah.
And so they can't afford to really get out on their own. And so I've seen a lot of that too.
Yeah. Under that category, I think it's becoming one of those things where the parents are, if I have a borrower under 30, I'm probably asking if they've got cosigners. If I've got a married couple or two wage earners, both under 30, no children, then maybe they've typically got income enough. But beyond that, I'm asking, do you have cosigners? Because that's something that's going to happen quite a bit. Because I think as parents, and I don't know if you find this to be the case, but a lot of parents, people, they're my age now. They weren't when we started in this business together, but now, so they're looking at their children. They're facing these exact same things, and they're like, okay, well, I can help, and they can get into ownership, and that's going to at least fix the cost in for them, build equity. There's some other things. Yeah. So do you see that very often where parents are like, you know what, I want my children to carry their own water. Yeah. I want them to do all this on their own, but there's this also very realistic thing that says maybe they need a little hand. Do you see this?
Yeah, sometimes I do. I see parents co-signing sometimes, or sometimes there's I've had brother and sister helping each other before.
Okay. Gifts for down payment.
Yeah,
I think
gifts.
is
I see gifts fairly frequently.
More than cosign, that's what I see.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to save, especially if you started 2 years ago and you're like, hey, I want to save for a house. And then all of a sudden inflation goes through the roof.
And another thing I would tell first-time home buyers that are struggling to just get in a house is that your house that you get initially don't consider it your forever home. It's a stepping stone to get to the house that you really want later. But you have to get your foot in the door, get a house, and then build some equity, and then you can upgrade later if you want. That's one of those, you can't have the cake and eat it too immediately. Sometimes you have to just work your way toward.
Yeah. I mean, and I think the funny thing is I look at my own children, Angie, and I'm like, they don't understand that, like in their mind. And I guess I can relate to this, but like in their mind, I think they want the end. Mm-hmm. But what they don't understand is that this is the win. Mm-hmm. This is the win. Mm-hmm. Like when you get down there to that thing in your mind that you think you're trying to do, it's over. The win is right now. Mm-hmm. The win is looking at your partner in life and saying, hey, we're going to go buy 123 Lucky Lane and we're going to throw our lot in together. Mm-hmm. We're going to sail our ship. We're going to pursue, that's the win. It is. And so there's no sense in delaying that or feeling like you don't need to be a participant in that, because you absolutely do. Yeah. You just have to see that for yourself and get started. So we have people moving here wanting family compounds from typically other states. What are they looking for? What makes them think? What makes them think Tennessee?
A lot of people, the lower taxes is one.
No income tax.
No state income tax.
So if you're a retiree, you're living here, and if you've got $100,000 a year pension from California prison system, and you've got a teacher's pay pension from California, you're making $150,000, $180,000 a year tax free. Now moving to Tennessee. Right.
That'd be appealing to a lot of people, I think.
Yeah. And so when they say, I want a family compound, do you think to yourself, oh, great, I've got 20. Just go take one off the shelf.
No,
it's not that easy, is it?
Because some of them want the mini farms. They want to be more self-sufficient. I'm working with a couple right now, supposed to close tomorrow on a large parcel of land.
All right. Let's describe that. When you say mini farm, what do you really mean?
A small parcel of land, usually where they can have some chickens, maybe grow a small garden.
So 3+ acres?
I would say probably 3 to 5.
3 to 5 plus. Yeah. Okay. So that's a mini farm. So you got a little bit of room for some livestock. You have some chickens. Yeah. Okay. Then what's the next step up from there? Like just farm? Or is there a hobby farm? What is the difference between a mini farm and a hobby farm?
Well, I guess if you're raising animals as a hobby or canning and doing your own vegetables as a hobby, I mean, whatever, raising bees maybe would be your hobby farm type thing.
Well, see this,
or
and then,
goats.
or goats, and we'll
yeah.
see. And this becomes
Mhm.
important because we can't lend on farms.
Mm-hmm.
Have you run into that?
No, I haven't.
So you're going to run into this from time to time where you may have somebody moving to Tennessee,
Mm-hmm.
and they're buying 123 Lucky Lane, but 123 Lucky Lane was, let's say, a dairy farm or a cattle farm or a cattle ranch or whatever. The question may come up when they go to buy it, what they're going to use it for, because one of the things that we run into in lending is if you run a business out of your home now. There are some specific, unique boutique products for mixed use property. I'll qualify that, but that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is you own a house and then you run a big landscaping business out of there and you let your workers stay there and you've got a big 6-bay garage and that's really commercial property that you're running a business out of. And so we have to pay attention to that, because if you have a piece of property that you're doing owner-occupied financing on, like rural development or anything like that, if there's business being done or it's an income-producing property, it makes it ineligible for financing. And that's important to know. So I've had situations where somebody's running an appraiser will go in and appraise a property, and if one of the partners has converted the garage into a salon and that's their source of income, well, that's fine. The challenge is the property is now ineligible. And so if you have somebody that has a farm, hobby farm or income producing, that can be a problem. They'll look at the tax returns. Is there any income being made from that farm? And then you may ask yourself, well, why is that, Shannon? Why would that be an issue? Because that was a question I had. And the reason is because if you don't pay and they have to foreclose on the property, the lender and Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, all of our FHA, rural development, like all of our agencies that provide liquidity for the mortgage market, that's not a good thing, because now you've taken that person's livelihood in addition to taking back your asset for housing. Right. So for your farm folks, make sure, and that may be something that you want to tell them, hey, if you are looking to refinance in the future or something like that, if you're thinking about activities on this property that you're going to be taxable and you're going to put on a tax return and file as a tax return, just know underwriting may look at that and say, oh, wait a minute, that's now income producing property. We can't refinance you. The property's not eligible. So that's one of those things that it's going to come up more and more as people start getting these compounds. Now, what are some other things that people need to think about when just like I said, there's not 20 of them sitting on a shelf. There's a lot that goes into this, right? It's not like you just go out and you're like, okay, I'll take that hill over there. And it's not.
No, not that cut and dry.
You can get them there,
you can.
But just walk me through I'm on the phone with Angie in California and I want to move my family and my couple of households to Tennessee. What are some of the initial steps and what are the big pieces of that process?
Well, I would talk to somebody, see what their plans are, what their timeline looks like, and then talk about how they're going to pay for it, because we need to know if they're buying with cash or if I need to refer them to a good lender such as yourself. And
in the camera,
and then
use the best with the best.
Yeah. And then, if they're buying with cash, I would expect proof of funds so that I know that they're qualified before I start doing a lot of legwork on the front end.
Okay, so this is important. If you're out there and you call Angie, she's not just being hard.
No,
she's not being nosy. She doesn't care about finding out what's going on with your bank account, except for the fact that she's not going to be able to submit an offer to a seller on your behalf stating that you're going to pay in cash without demonstrating that she's done any due diligence to show that that's actually true. So you can see where you have to provide that for her to exercise her fiduciary responsibility to represent you properly.
Right.
So anyway,
exactly.
So you'll get proof of funds.
Yeah, proof of funds. And then, say if they're buying a house, we look at homes and their search criteria, land, the same thing. Like I have a really unique one right now with a large parcel of land with a lake a border on the lake.
Okay.
So I've had to do some due diligence with that, with the TVA and a state park, and to find out, what those clients can and cannot do there.
Right.
Whether they have restrictions for, say, they want a solar array, and I have to make sure there's no restrictions. See if there's septic, if it perks for septic system large enough to accommodate the home,
because these are
size home they want to build.
These are not buying in a
Nope.
subdivision,
No,
right?
they're
Like none of
not.
that infrastructure has been done.
And
It's
so,
all
it's all, you got to do all that due diligence, and then survey, make sure they can identify their property markers,
Okay.
and all the costs go into that. And those costs are a lot of times incurred by the buyer unless the seller has like a survey on file already.
Speaking of costs,
Mm-hmm,
if I want to do this and I want to hire you,
mm-hmm.
is there an initial cost for me to hire you to start this process?
There's not.
Okay.
No.
So if I want to call you up and say, hey, I'm looking at doing this, you'll begin the process and working with me, and I don't have to write a big check to get
You
started.
don't.
So how do you get paid?
I
Because
get-
you're doing a whole lot of work for me. I mean,
I
like
know.
what
why-
you just described to me is
Yeah.
already like 2 weeks worth of work, and I haven't even left California yet.
Right.
Like how do you get paid?
I get paid at the end. I don't get paid unless something closes. That's the way we
Okay.
realtors work. However, I do have an agreement. I will have a buyer's agreement in place stating that I'll get paid at the end, and I have my percentage there, and we negotiate. That's always negotiable. I have a fee that I typically charge, but then, that is negotiable to make it work for my client if needed.
And that's partly Angie and
Mhm.
partly Angie's business practice, but it's also consistent with what the regulation
Mhm.
and law is in our current marketplace,
Correct.
right? It's
Yeah.
not like
Right.
Angie
Right.
just says this
Right.
stuff, right? Like,
Right.
like you can't, again, show somebody property these days without this stuff in place. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So that's part of the new
Mhm.
rules
Yeah.
that have happened. So
Yes.
it's not just Angie beating you up with paperwork.
No.
It's what she's got to do.
And that's another reason I ask for like proof of funds, or that they work with the lender, so that I know that they do qualify to buy, because I'm not going to schedule showings of homes, and ask sellers to get their house ready for a showing and people to come through if I have somebody that's not qualified to buy. I don't feel
Right.
like that's right, to do that to the seller.
Yeah. It's not
it's a
not
courtesy
being standoffish
yeah,
to the buyers.
right,
It's
not.
it's not being a good caretaker of the marketplace.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And, like I said, I forgot what we were talking about there.
How does
So-
Angie get paid?
Oh, how do I get paid? I get paid
Yeah.
at the end. I
So-
typically, if I'm working with a buyer, I expect the buyer we write that into our buyer's representation agreement. When we close, I'll typically ask the seller to pay me my fee.
Okay.
And if the seller doesn't, I haven't had anybody yet say they would not, then the buyer would pay me.
Yeah.
And then typically, the sellers and the listing agreement, we would work that out up front, and I get paid when it closes. But those steps up front,
Yeah.
so that I can ensure that they can actually purchase, also help me, because I'm spending time on someone's behalf to look at properties and do some of that legwork. And I don't want to do that if I'm not sure that somebody doesn't qualify or
Right.
can't purchase, because that would be wasting my time and taking time away from my family, and
Yeah.
those kinds of things.
And
So I have to-
it's a
that upfront.
partnership. So
Mhm.
just
Yeah,
like
it is.
you're going to expect Angie to do all the things that she says, you got to do your part, right?
Right,
You got to
right.
provide the documentation. You got to be available, right?
And
You
we
got to
all
do
have
all
be
those things.
moving forward in good faith the whole time.
Oh,
so to speak. Yeah.
Absolutely. Which is interesting. It goes back to what I was talking about earlier. The end result is you're going to find them the perfect house in the perfect location at the perfect price. Like that's the end.
Yeah.
But the real win is that process, that journey.
Yes, the
If you don't
process.
love that,
Yeah.
you probably don't need to be in real estate.
Well, and that's the other thing is, I don't consider myself a salesperson.
Right.
I consider myself an educator, a researcher, an advocate,
Yeah.
and helping people, get to where they want to be that way.
Yeah.
I'm
That's us.
kind
That's
of
how our
a
team
what you
is.
see is what you get kind of person. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
country girl raised through and through, and there's again the goat thing.
Yeah.
But so I tell it like it is. I'm truthful with my clients, and whether they want to hear it or not, I point out things like I see. If I see something wrong with a property, I point it out. I could probably unsell or
Yeah.
not sell a property more times than not, because I'm going to say, oh, I see a leak in the roof right there. You might want to consider something different or get that inspected, or, I point things out that I see. I mention things about surveys and property lines and different things as we're going through the process. So I just kind of tell it like it is. And I think that's the way I'd want somebody to treat me if I was buying.
Right.
And I've had good realtors and bad realtors. I've done it by owner both ways myself before I was a realtor, and so
I love that. You've done it every which way it can happen. Yeah.
And so I know what people are thinking because of that.
And you know what they need.
I know what they need.
That's why you're here.
Mm-hmm, yep. So all that kind of ties in and helps me.
I think that's fascinating. Think about using the proper agent who knows answers to questions you don't even know. I mean, think about that. That's what you're looking for, right? That you can't AI it. You can't get it in a box. You can't you just either have it or you don't.
Yeah.
Okay. So if somebody wants to get started, they'll contact you. Doesn't cost anything. You'll have a consultation with them, find out, hey, this is what you're hiring me to do. This is what I'm going to be compensated once the job is done. And then you get started and get after it. Right.
Yep.
Now you've got some help, your husband will come later, which by the way, he's in higher education.
He is.
And y'all have been married for a long time. And I think that's interesting because if I were to take 100 highly successful realtors, 100 very successful, high income, high earning realtors, most of them are going to be educators. They're former public school teachers. They're former professors. They're corporate trainers. I am an educator teacher at heart. Like if I was not in the mortgage business, I would be teaching classes somewhere. I teach classes as often as I can in the mortgage business about mortgages, right? Because that's my heart. That's where. But I think that's interesting because you being married to him for as long as y'all obviously have this in common, and I think that maybe it's a research bias. Maybe it's we can take all the data and remove some of those things that people are triggering you with emotionally. Because I'm not buy now because of this or rates are going here, or it's more a matter of if it's time, we're going to make the best decision that we can in the market that we're in. So I just say, tell your husband, I got all the faith in the world. He's going to be the best, because I think those two go together.
Yeah, they do.
I don't know why that is, but so how do people reach you? If they want to get the process started, how do they reach you?
If people want to reach me, they can call me at 629-GOT-GOAT, which is 629-468-4628, or contact me by email at integrityhomestn@gmail.com, or reach out to Shannon because he knows how to get in touch with me as well.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you for spending some time with us.